Hi, this is Jill Hammer, and today we're going to discuss the minute paper, which is an informal classroom assessment technique. This assignment is for number 3 for the Vancouver Community College Provincial Instructor Diploma Program, course number 3230. Here we go. So, first of all, what's an informal classroom assessment technique? They are non-graded, usually anonymous activities in class that are designed to assess the teaching-learning method by way of checking for clarity and understanding. The purpose is to have both students and teachers improve the learning process. So, what is the minute paper? Students are asked to answer a question similar to what's the most important thing you learned today, or what questions remain unanswered for you. Typically, it's done during the last 5 to 10 minutes in class, and it can be done also at the beginning of class sometimes. Students are encouraged to not put their names on the paper, and then the instructors collect the responses and tabulate the information so they can adjust the further lessons if needed. Now, how do we use the technique? First of all, we figure out what we need to focus on, either current lecture material or past homework assignments, which will determine what time of the class will be dedicated to using this technique. If it's current lecture material, typically it's the end of the class. A past homework assignment would be typically the beginning of the next class. Then we determine the writing prompts for the minute paper based upon the 2 questions that we previously talked about. We set aside 5 to 10 minutes to do the minute paper. As well, we set aside time in the next class to discuss the results. We write the questions out beforehand in a manner easy for presenting them to the class, such as on a chalkboard or on a whiteboard or on an overhead projector. At the time of doing the technique, we hand out either an index card or a piece of paper to each student. We advise the students that writing their name on the cards isn't needed unless you personally decide that you do want them on the paper. Then you give the students a specific amount of time for the technique, which is typically 2 to 5 minutes per question, as well as what kind of answers you'd like to receive, either short sentences or a couple words. It's ultimately up to you. So, why should we use it? This technique assists students to ask for clarification when there isn't always time, or they don't feel comfortable sharing their misunderstandings. It's also a simple method to check in with the students, regardless of how many students are in the classroom. There's positives and negatives with every technique, and the positives for this technique is that it gives the teachers immediate feedback on the students' learning. As well, the follow-through for the teachers doesn't require a significant amount of time. It works well in small classrooms as well as large classrooms, and it's used in classes that provide a large amount of new information to students on a regular basis. Now the negatives. If the technique is used often or unsuccessfully, the students and teachers won't be able to benefit from learning about the possible learning deficits. It can be challenging to create questions that are specific for the topic and that are easy to understand, as well as answered quickly by the students. Now, a couple of best practices for the technique is to try and create questions that fit into the following categories to evoke meaningful reflection for the students, such as interest, relevance, attitudes or opinions, analysis, as well as conceptual connections. As well, make sure you give the students a realistic time frame for discussing the results from the minute paper. It doesn't make sense for us to hold back on the results for a longer period of time. It's more beneficial if we do give it to the students in a shortened period of time. So perhaps the next day or 2 classes from now. Here's a list of references. that were used for this presentation. Please note all of them on the board. Thank you.